Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. We're so glad that you are here, and I'd like to just call your attention and invite you to take your favorite seat. I'm Dr. Franzel Mathis-Portilla. I'm the interim dean of the Stafford School of Business. Again, we're so glad that you're here. And I'd just like to remind you of a few housekeeping items before we begin. Some of you have found that the restrooms are in the lobby area on either side. And if you would now, take out those favorite devices and put them on vibrate or mute or silence them in the way that your device operates. And yes, we're so glad to have our guest vice president here. I couldn't resist that, Dr. Nichols from USG. And if I start with the welcome of single individuals, I'll get in trouble, but I am going to try prior to our esteemed president coming up. Students, what we want you to know is that this event has been a long time in the making and planning, and it is designed just for you. Before we begin, so that students know who you are, where's Mr. Clark? Would you stand? Yes. Would our panelists stand, please? And all of our professional guests, would you stand up so that students will know who you are? And they'll want to network with you, and that's why I'm asking that you do that. You may be seated now. Thank you. Excited to bring up our esteemed college president, Dr. Tracy Brundage. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Well, thanks to Dean Portilla. Let's give her a round of applause this morning. And her team, I know it took quite a bit to put this together this morning, so we're really grateful for the great work they do. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm honored to have all of you on campus this morning for this important event, and I want to commend, again, the organizers for putting together such an esteemed lineup of presenters. The Business Outlook and Forum aligns perfectly with ABAC's mission to ensure that our students are not just educated, but truly career ready by the time they earn their degrees. And we challenge every academic area, including the Stafford School of Business, to focus on relevance, innovation, and exploring opportunities beyond the classroom. We understand that to truly prepare our students for the future, we must help them navigate a rapidly changing world, one where technologies like artificial intelligence are reshaping industries, business practices, and even education itself. AI is no longer a far-off concept. It's here, and it's influencing how we work, learn, and solve problems. This summit is an important opportunity for us to explore these shifts and discuss how we can prepare our students to thrive in this new environment. Having spent my entire professional career in higher education and economic and workforce development, I know firsthand how competitive the world outside the walls of ABAC can be. And today's graduates must be ready to enter the workforce with a diverse skill set, adaptability, and a drive to succeed. I'm proud to share that we consistently hear from employers that our graduates not only have the right knowledge, but also the right mindset to thrive. The only question they ask is, can you send us more? That's a question that tells me that we're doing something right, and we are committed to continuing our mission of life-changing of providing life-changing educational opportunities for our students and their future employers. Today, you will hear from a remarkable group of presenters who are deeply invested in the future of Georgia and the next generation of students. They share ABAC's vision of preparing future leaders, especially those from rural Georgia. And many of our graduates will return to their hometowns to lead, and we take immense pride in that. While our campus welcomes students from around the globe, the majority of our students come from rural areas, and those communities need dynamic business owners, civic leaders, and change makers, many of whom will have to navigate and leverage artificial intelligence and other technologies to be successful. Our Stafford School of Business is proud to offer instructors who excel not only in the classroom, but also in real-world experiences. This blend of academic expertise and practical knowledge ensures that our students are ready to make an impact. I want to thank our faculty for their unwavering commitment and dedication, and I also want to thank all of you for being here today. Forums like this are vital for ABAC's continued success in producing graduates who are not just ready to enter the workforce, but ready to change the world. It's our mission, and we take it seriously. As we explore today's discussions on AI, productivity, and innovation, I encourage all of you to engage fully. Our collective work here will help guide the next generation of leaders as they step into the future, equipped for success in a world driven by technological change. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Earl Denham. Normally when one of the Denham boys grab a microphone, they start singing, but I promised Dr. Patilla I'd be on my best behavior this morning, so I will. For the good news, the 12:30 class is canceled. We'll have a reception over in Lewis Hall after this ceremony. However, as a reminder, you have a reflection to write for this event, and that reflection is due on Wednesday at class time and Thursday at class time, okay? I'm not a bad guy, okay? Hey, I want to introduce somebody that I have known now for almost 20 years, and we were talking about our gray hair in the back of the auditorium earlier. You know, when students go into my room to say, oh, well, Mr. Denham, you did have brown hair at one time. And so Chris Clark and I have known each other for about 19 years and worked together on some projects like Heatcraft. Heatcraft, we were able to get that project, and Chris was in a key position to help us to land that job, land that business. And we got over 500 new employees. Okay, 250 of them were full-time. And so Chris was able to, in a key position, able to approve a rather large grant that helped that company decide to set up here in Tifton. You know, those of you that don't know, let me tell you a little bit about the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. And by the way, they do have interns. So the Georgia Chamber was founded in 1911 and incorporated in 1915. The Georgia Chamber of Commerce is the largest business advocacy organization in Georgia, working to protect free enterprise and secure our long-term economic prosperity. The Georgia Chamber represents tens of thousands of members in every corner of the state, with offices in Atlanta, Brunswick, and Tifton. Representing the Tifton office here is Tiffany Holmes. Please stand, Tiffany. They are very, very concerned about rural communities and helping rural communities, and so Tiffany is in charge of the Tifton office, and they'll be looking after those of us that live here in the rural communities. This year, in 2025, the Georgia Chamber launched Georgia 2050. Now, this is a strategic plan to ensure Georgia remains a beacon of economic opportunity for the next 25 years. And for the last several years, Georgia has led the country in manufacturing jobs. So we're really proud of the Chamber of Commerce and what they do in partnership with our friends at Georgia Power and the Department of Economic Development. Now, my friend Chris Clark is from Fitzgerald, Georgia. He served as the president and CEO of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce since 2010. Chris previously served as commissioner of the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, executive director of the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, and as deputy commissioner of the Department of Economic Development. That's where I met Chris 19 years ago. He's held several other positions. He is a graduate of Georgia Southern University and Georgia College and State University. In 2023, Chris published his first book, The CEO Imperative. He and his wife, Tiffany, live in Peachtree City and attend Dogwood Church. Their son, Christian, attends the University of Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Clark.
I want to show you what's going to happen in 2050 between now and then, give you a feel for what your career fields are going to look like as well. And then we'll see if there's enough time for a few questions before our esteemed panel of my peers get up here and answer the hard questions. So is everybody ready to talk about the next 25 years? Well, whether or not, we're going to do it. So, because I got the microphone and I got the clicker. So first thing is the state of Georgia over the next 25 years is going to grow pretty dramatically. We're going to add 2.5 million more people to the state. Now that number is actually lower than we had expected it to be just a few years ago, primarily because millennials have a lower birth rate than any other population since 1976. And so we're actually having fewer babies born in Georgia, which means a lot of this some of it will be domestic growth. A lot of it will be people that move to the state of Georgia. So 2.5 million people moving to Georgia. What's going to be remarkable is those folks that are born here and what the workforce looks like will change dramatically. So most of my college students in the room, raise your hand if you're a Gen Zer, you're a Zoomer. Okay? Do I have any Gen Alphas in the room? Any high-performing high school students? No? All right. How about Gen Xers in the room? Okay. Let me just say this to my Gen Xers. No one cares about us. They don't poll us. All we want to do is go to work, come home, have a glass of wine, and watch Netflix. That's pretty much our whole life, and we're okay with that. Where are my millennials in the room at? Okay, millennials basically run the world right now and will do so for the next 25 years. So we will all be working for the millennials in the room at some point. Where are my baby boomers at? All right, great run, guys. Really good run. So right now, Georgia's economy, you've got about 4 to 5 generations in the workforce at one time. So Gen Zs, you're kind of the hot thing right now because you're in college, you're finishing high school, you're coming into the workforce. Gen Alpha are those elementary, middle school students that are out there that will be following you into the workforce. But starting this year, Generation Beta will be born. And after Beta, within the next few years, we'll have Generation Delta. And so literally we could get to the point in the next 15 to 20 years where we've got 5 to 6 generations working at the same time. So very different workforce than what we are seeing today. And that workforce will look different. All right, ladies, raise your hands. You are in charge and you will remain in charge. All right? Amen. 53% of the workforce in Georgia are made up of females. That number will grow by about 3% over the next 25 years. Your generations, though, are very, very diverse. And in fact, if you look at how the population is going to grow in the next few years, in Georgia, the white population will grow by about 8%, black and African American population by about 20%, 40% growth in Indian American, Asian American, and then mixed race. But Hispanic is the fastest growing demographic out there. Any Latinos, Hispanics in the audience? All right, you're going to rule 50% growth in your population sector over the next few years. The number one fastest growing sector to create a business in Georgia is Latinas. Number one, outpacing every other group almost 2 to 1. So the workforce is going to look different. The people you work for are going to look different, think different, have different accents than you're used to. But when you add those new folks moving to Georgia, the purchasing power of our state, how much money you spend, your parents spend, is going to increase dramatically. We're going to add $140 billion in domestic spending just in Georgia every year between now and 2050. What does that mean for you? Well, quite frankly, it means more opportunities for small businesses and companies because we've got to satisfy the needs of another $150 billion. That's why you see all of this manufacturing work, headquarters, logistics, technology companies. Duracell just announced last week that they're moving their battery facility, their battery research facility to the state of Georgia. We're going to continue to see companies move here in order to fill that consumer demand that's growing. But with that consumer demand does come some issues that we've got to deal with. One of those is a lot of the stuff that you're buying requires you to plug it in. And Scott from Georgia Power, Barbara from Georgia Power, they're going to talk about this a little bit later. But making sure that we've got the energy needed to fulfill all your vehicles that you're going to plug in, all the gadgets that you want to plug in is going to be critical. We're going to need to add almost 60% more megawatt production into the state of Georgia in the next 25 years than we have today. So bottom line is, what does that mean for you? Anything in the energy field is going to have opportunities for job creation. Everybody with me? So we're going to need more energy. But here's the other thing that we're going to need a lot more of. We're going to need a lot more investment in roads and bridges, railroads and infrastructure. How many of you regularly order something that is delivered to your home? Yep. That's the new consumer market. The more that we spend online, the more that has to be put on trucks, trailers, ships, rail to be delivered to your home on roads that were never built for that type of demand. And so Georgia's going to have to spend $84 billion in the next 25 years just so you can move around safely and the products you order can get delivered to your house. Now, some of those products are not going to be delivered via road. More and more of them are going to be delivered via drone to your home. UPS is already doing drone deliveries in South Georgia today. In fact, the number one hottest job last year was drone pilot. I've got high schools near Atlanta now that are putting in drone programs and career pathways for their students. Is this on anybody's list right now, drone pilot? Those are opportunities, and we're going to talk more about those in just a moment. So you're going to have that type of investment. But here's the big picture. So what does this look like? And from a workforce development standpoint, from a career standpoint, where are those jobs going to be? Let's talk about that. First of all, we've got an economy in this state, and Tyron will talk about this, built on agriculture. How many of you in the ag space here? Ag degree? Yep. You're going to see about a 2% growth a year over the next 25 years for ag jobs. Going to continue. That's the base of the state's economy, and that's not going to change. In the 1960s, we decided to diversify the state's economy, and we started recruiting manufacturing companies. And so our industrial economy is growing. Anybody seen the news lately about Hyundai's plant outside of Savannah? Largest manufacturing facility on the East Coast, battery facility behind it. They'll make 3 different car lines at that place. They've already got, I think, about 1,500 workers hired, plus suppliers everywhere. Manufacturing will continue to grow in Georgia, and those jobs are not necessarily 2-year degrees. Those are 4-year degree jobs for many of those high-end manufacturing positions. In the 1990s, we decided to further diversify your economy, and we added in service and information technology. So anything in the healthcare space continues to grow exponentially. Anything in the tourism, I think you're going to talk about tourism in a few minutes. But this whole service sector, business, information technology, anybody getting degrees in those spaces? Nobody. You're missing a huge opportunity. And I'll give you some examples of this in a minute. But if you look at the last few years in our state, the economy's changed again, and the jobs in agriculture are now requiring advanced degrees. You got to know more science than you ever thought you'd know. The jobs that we're recruiting in industrial have changed. We have a plant. Anybody here drive the Ford Lightning by any chance? Anybody seen a Ford Lightning? Is anybody still awake? I just want to check all my boxes. All the batteries for the Ford Lightning are made in Jackson, Georgia. That's all manufacturing jobs, require 4 to 6 year degrees, white coat facility, clean room technology. That's what we're seeing develop. And so starting this year, what's really going to grow for us in all these sectors is what we call the innovation economy. Anything that involves creativities, humanities, being able to communicate, understand, problem solve. This sector will lift manufacturing, it will lift agriculture, it's going to lift information technologies and redefine every single job category out there. And so if technology scares you, if innovation scares you, you're going to have a hard time. And you need to really rethink what you're doing long term. So let's talk about what those jobs of the future are going to look like. We'll skip through a couple of slides here. Let's skip through this. All right. So my baby boomers in the room, I think there were 3 of them. So all the baby boomers will technically be retirement age by 2030. Now, we don't want them all to retire. We need them to stay in the workforce. But because of the ones that will retire, you're going to see double demand growth in almost every single sector out there, from utility development, which is energy, construction, information tech, financial activities, every single sector out there. Between now and 2050, Georgia will add 3.1 million jobs. So if you have a cousin who says he can't find a job, he's lying or he's lazy. All right? We are recruiting and bringing companies to South Georgia. We had 25 here last week for a big event, encouraging them to be in South Georgia. There are plenty of opportunities. Because remember a minute ago, I told you we're going to only add 2.5 million people, but going to have 3.1 million jobs. What does that mean for you? You're going to have your pick. If you've got the right skills, your ability to decide where you want to go, what your career is going to look like, is going to be truly in your hands long term. So what are those jobs going to be? Well, I think it's interesting. If you look at the most high demand jobs in Georgia right now, 2025, healthcare is number 1. Where's my healthcare students at? We need more of you in this room. Right now in Georgia, there are 46,000 vacant healthcare job openings. By 2028, there'll be 62,000. By 2030, there'll be 101,000 vacant healthcare job openings. Particularly in southwest Georgia, there was one quarter last year where I had 242,000 healthcare job openings in southwest Georgia. 242,000. So healthcare is going to be hot today. It's still going to be hot in 2050. And that's everything from doctors to nurses to technicians to everybody in the hospital administrative space. Information technology is hot right now. That's really going to become more entrepreneurial and digital entrepreneurial driven long term. Advanced manufacturing will stay a hot sector, so will engineering, skilled trades, and I know this might not be many of your area. 30% of all skilled craftsmen will retire by 2030, which means no one to fix your plumbing, no one to fix your roof, build your deck, build homes. Huge job opportunities in all of those sectors. Biotech is hot now, will continue to be hot. Any data analysis MIS majors in the room? Hot right now, but it's really going to evolve into more machine learning and AI. Software development is hot right now, but really what we think is going to be the most in-demand, cybersecurity. Any cybersecurity folks in the room? 50,000 cybersecurity jobs open right now in the state of Georgia. We need more content creators, more innovators, and one of the fastest growing sectors is something called clean tech. What does that mean? That's a fancy word. Clean tech is going to be anything in energy, advanced manufacturing, sustainability, stewardship, anything in that sector. And if you're wondering, is it worth you thinking about this? Well, Clean Tech has spent about $24 billion in Georgia just in the last few years, and the average wage for those jobs is $107,000. Does that work for anybody in the room? Is 107 in your, are you good with that much? That's starting out. That's starting out. 23% growth over the next 25 years just in the clean tech space. I know a lot of schools, I mean, do we have a sustainability certificate here? Don't know. Some schools are doing that. Not yet. Clean tech certificates, sustainability certificates, almost any career path, degree, you're going to need some of those types of skill sets. I'm not going to bother you with that one. But I do want to talk about this for a minute before I wrap up. How many of you use artificial intelligence in some format every day? For those of you don't, the train's leaving and you're not on it. I use it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every day of the week. 2 different programs, not counting Alexa, Waze, Siri, and all those others that are artificial intelligence. But here's the worry. And so these are 3 fairly renowned authors. And Harari, and I can't pronounce any of his other name, he's written multiple books, but he really paints a very scary picture. He believes that we're getting close to developing an entire class of unemployable Americans because they don't, and frankly, everybody in the world, that don't have the skills, have not diversified their skill sets, and have not AI-proofed their life. We will lose 12 million jobs in America to artificial intelligence in the next 5 years. Primarily, those are low-skill jobs, right? Those are jobs that most of you would have had in high school, but you don't have now or you won't have once you graduate. Now, John Lennox is a fascinating guy. He's an AI specialist, but also a theologian, and he makes the case that we've got to make sure we're creating jobs as economic developers and as business leaders that AI can't take away, which is a lot of the work that we've just talked about. A lot of those jobs AI can't do. But Stephen Spear, who's a professor in Cambridge, writes that education has got to change so that students are focused more on creativity and strategic thinking, things that AI can't do. AI is not going to be able to fix my deck, no matter how much I wanted it to. AI also can be creative, but it can't be as creative as a human. And so if you think all I need is a certain set of skills, that's not going to be what you need long term. You're going to have to think vastly different about how you build those skills out. And I want to show you what that skill set needs to look like. So in 2020, when a few of us, probably before any of you were born, I'm guessing most of you were born, if you wanted to be employed in the state of Georgia, you needed to be adaptable, you had to know how to communicate, you had to know how to manage your time, and we needed you to be able to turn on a computer. That was about it. We would teach you Word, Excel, that was it. Those were called employability skills. When we were looking to hire, that's what we looked for. Today, we need you to have a good work ethic, critical think, work with your teams, social intelligence. You need to know how to work well with others. That's the skill sets you need today. So if you're how many of you are seniors? You're starting to look for a job, I assume. This is what the HR managers and people are looking for. Yes, they're looking at whatever your degree is. That's nice. These skills are more important than your degree. But if you want to be successful in 2050, 25 years from now, you're going to have to add a whole lot more skill sets than you're graduating with today. And so let's unpack a couple of these because I really want you to understand them. Number one, if you want to AI-proof your future, you have to know how to work with people, manage people, even people you disagree with. I got a couple of uh-huhs, but mainly I just get, most of y'all just looking at me like a cow looking at a new gate. You're not quite sure what to make of this. Here's the other thing. When I graduated school, here's your degree, go get a master's degree, you're good. Not anymore. Interdisciplinary skill sets are critical. You need stackable skills. You need this certificate and another certificate, and you need to go at night to get another one. You need to come back to ABAC to get something else. You're seeing more and more students look for companies looking for students that have 2 majors. I talked to a student the other day who was graduating with 3 majors. They're showing off, I get it. But it's very diversified in what they're looking for. Master's degree, lifelong learning, multiple minors, real-world experience. I don't care what degree you have. If you haven't worked before you go sit down for that interview, your chance of getting that job decreased dramatically. How many of you have had a part-time job, full-time job? For the rest of you, hook it up now. You got to be adaptable. The world's going to change. AI is going to change. The average Gen Zer will have 3 careers, not 3 jobs. You will have 3 distinct careers during your life, very different careers. You have to be able to critical think, and then quite frankly, I think we've done a poor job of encouraging independent-minded innovators. We try to tell every student, you got to be like this and look like this and do this. It's the innovators that are going to create their own businesses. They're going to create the next generation of AI or tech or whatever it is out there. And so if that's not in your headspace, you need to figure out, how do I get in that? How do I get some skill sets? How do I nurture your own creativity, your own ability to innovate? I'm not going to bore you with that or that. I'm going to stop there. Looks like I'm about to get to hook from the dean. So any questions from the audience about my data, jobs of the future, fields that you're in and you're thinking about or worried about before I sit down and let the panel come up here? You all know exactly what you're going to do. How many of you already have a job lined up? Congratulations. Really, that's pretty amazing, because usually those numbers don't really start popping up until March or April. So congratulations to you. All right. Normally I have lots of questions afterwards, but I'll take 1 or 2 now, and then I'll stick around afterwards. Yes, ma'am? Yeah, you're starting to see, it's funny, when you look at skill sets, credentials, do I understand my core field? Do I have a certificate in artificial intelligence? Have I gone online and got this? You need to continue to think about your career as just this progression. I got my undergraduate degree. Do I need a graduate degree, or need to come over here and get a certificate? So when I graduated, I went to grad school, and then when I got in my field, I got 1 certificate. Then I went for 4 years to get a separate certificate. You need to be thinking about what those skill sets look like. But anything in tech are going to be helpful, but you cannot overlook the communication skill sets. The humanities matter. Your ability to communicate will set you apart from every other applicant that's in the pool right now. And so what does that look like, whether that's things that you get here at school, in continuing ed from ABAC, or online? You need to be thinking about as many skills. My nephew just graduated. I'm helping him, worked on his resume last week. Now, he's had 2 jobs since he graduated last year, and he's applying for kind of a career job now. These have kind of been temporary jobs. And I looked at his resume, and I said, quite frankly, nobody cares that you played football and baseball in high school. Quite frankly, nobody cares what fraternity you were in college. What I don't see on your resume are the skills that you developed. So let's sit down and walk through. You actually helped in HR, and you managed a team on a construction site. You've done sales calls. You've got this certificate that you got when you worked for this guy. That's what your employers are looking for. Now, if you had a leadership role in a position in college, 100%. That needs to be on your resume. But the fun stuff, what you did in high school, quite frankly, the AI program that's going to look at your resume is not going to recognize it, and the HR manager that gets it is going to move right through it. And I hate to tell you that, but that's the truth. One last question, or I'm finishing. Yes, sir? No, it's funny. It will change, but with those skill sets, you're going to evolve with whatever comes. But the fact is, you're still going to, yes, we will have more electric vehicles. We're still going to have gas-powered. You're going to still have machines. You're going to have probably update those skill sets. But if you have that ability, and I can't think of the right word I'm looking for now, but you've got that skill set, you'll be able to translate that into anything. We've got another slide. I don't have it today. Almost anything in mechanical skills, I'm looking at a 23% demand over the next 15 years in those sectors. So yeah, you're going to write your own ticket. You just have to continue to upskill with with whatever the product that's coming out. And most, like Kia right now, they're sending people back to school that have been working on theirs to learn how to use the new powertrains and the new electrical systems. All right, I'll stick around afterwards if you want to talk about your individual career skill set, but I'll turn it over back to Earl. Thank y'all.
Dr. Curry in the Stafford School of Business has been very much involved in AI, and one of our members on the faculty, Tatiana, has also been involved in the AI. She's been selected to make a presentation, and more of us are incorporating AI in our lesson plans. So we are, and we also go on field trips. Yours truly, we go on field trips, and where we're looking at what the actual employers are doing on the job, what they're doing with AI, and how our students can fit that in when they get to go out and when they go out to get a job, and we incorporate that in a lot of our courses, especially some of you students will agree, operations management. Okay, so when we are including that, where we go out and use AI to do inventory, we do AI to do purchasing, a lot of different things, and I believe Dr. Minton does use that as well in some of his curriculum. So right now, we've got some absolutely wonderful pros here that know their business, so we're going to ask them some questions and get their response. And we invite the audience to ask questions if you have questions. First, I'd like to introduce our panel. Melody Cowart, who is the president of the Tifton-Tift County Chamber of Commerce. Next, we have Tommy Beth Willis, who is a regional director of ACE South Georgia. Next, we have Tyron Spearman, who is president of the Spearman Marketing, otherwise known as Mr. Peanut. And also he is an expert, and he runs the tourism here in Tift County, and he also is very much involved in agriculture. And we have Scott Purvis, who is the South Region Economic Development Manager for Georgia Power, a very good friend of mine. They're all friends, but Tina Herring, who is also works for she is a assistant manager or assistant director of global commerce for the Georgia Department of Economic Development. I've known them all for a very long time, except for Tommy. We're going to get to know each other because you're going to come talk to my classes, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay? All right, so here we go. Here we go. So this is anybody. Describe your role in economic development or how your specific area of business intersects with economic development.
I'll go first. Since I'm on the end, I'll go first. As Earl said, I'm Scott Purvis, Regional Economic Development Manager for Georgia Power. But most importantly, I'm a proud graduate of ABAC. But in my role in economic development, I cover 27 counties in what Georgia Power calls its South Region. Basically, my territory is I-75 over to the Alabama line. And I have a dual role, community development. I work with communities to get them ready for economic development. That could be through planning, that could be through strategic planning. It could be working with them to help set up an adult leadership program, or it could be doing something like helping that community site property for a new industrial park. The other part of my job is the economic development portion, and I work with communities when they have existing industry expansions or when they have companies looking to locate in their community. I work with those communities in a project management type role.
I'm Tina Herring. As Earl said, I work with the Georgia Department of Economic Development. We are the state's sales and marketing arm, and my job is to work with the 14 counties in Region 10, which would be on the other side of Tifton, and what I do is assist and support the communities with attracting businesses to their locations or assisting existing industries expand. And we have a whole host of state incentives that we bring to the table. Some are just statutory and others are discretionary. And we work together with that community to bring those to the table to hopefully spur that growth of their industries.
I'm Melody Cowart, President and CEO of our Tifton County Chamber of Commerce, and we partner with our economic development here in Tifton. We're basically brothers and sisters. We help attract new businesses. We're a member organization. We are definitely pro-business. We have multiple networking opportunities, and we foster a favorable environment for our business opportunities and economic growth in Tifton and Tift County.
Yes. And good morning. I'm Tommy Beth Willis, and I'm the South Georgia Regional Director for ACE. And you probably say, well, what is ACE? I'm glad you asked. ACE stands for Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs. Basically, we are a funding partner. We're a non-traditional funding partner. So when you think about economic development, you know, you have to have capital involved to make things like that happen. At ACE, we focus on capital, coaching, and connections. My office is located here in Tifton, but I'm actually from Moultrie, Georgia. We cover the entire state, providing those three pillars, but my job specifically, I focus on Macon South. We know it's the other part of Georgia, and so it's very important to stimulate economic growth. You have to have capital investment, and so we do loans to small businesses, to commercial loans as well. And in South Georgia specifically, we have a startup program where we do loans to start up small businesses. So if any of you all are interested in launching a business while you're in school or ready to, once you graduate, I would love to have conversation. But it is important that you have that financial piece. In addition to that, we also provide coaching. So, you know, executive business coaching throughout the length of the loan. So that just continues to help you make your business stronger, which impacts the local economy, which again makes economic development grow.
Tommy, may I follow up, please? So if we have a student, well, a couple of students are entrepreneurs, and they want to start a business when they retire, they can come to you and get a loan?
Absolutely, I'd love to talk to them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I got some folks ready to talk to you.
All right, I'm ready.
Tyron, you want to add anything to what's already been said, or you want to talk about tourism? I know that you are all of the above.
Just what I was going to say. We're total economic development, everything from tourism to agriculture. We're trying to make you a living somewhere in those networks. I work with the Tift County Tourism Association, and all the time you see on the billboards out there, think Tifton? Are you thinking Tifton? Just checking. But that's our logo right now, and we're getting ready to set every event we have, like next Saturday is the Rhythm and Ribs Barbecue Festival that we started 10 years ago. That's economic development. Get people out of their home and get them out there spending money, and wherever that money falls, it helps everybody. Same thing with agriculture. I'm worried now what Chris said a while ago, with all these people coming, where are we gonna plant the food? I'm gonna talk to you about that. We gotta have a little open land here so we can feed these people. And there's a lot of people coming. Agriculture, every day I'm on the phone with the Farm Bill and everything in Washington with our team, and it's all economic development. Just got $11 billion for farmers with a disaster assistance, economic assistance. So every day is economic development.
What's the average age of a farmer here in Georgia?
59.
Yeah, about my age, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Rethink it.
Let me ask you this, okay? All right, so we've got a bunch of students out there. We've got several folks out there that are interested in careers. So what if they want to get into economic development? Are there any special skill sets that they need to get into the economic development? Anybody want to start? You want to start over here? Scott's
Scott has got to have a degree or something.
Well, I don't think anybody starts out to get into economic development. Just somehow through your career, you get exposed to economic development and you start gravitating towards it. In my career, I started out in local government management as a city county manager. dabbled some in economic development, then went to work with the state in a regional role and worked in economic development, then now at Georgia Power as an economic developer. So I think that's the great thing about economic development is it's so diverse that various backgrounds are perfect for economic development. I think a lot of it goes back to what Chris said, great communication skills. You got to have those in economic development.
It's really a relationship organization, economic development, and economic development really covers a whole lot of industries. Tourism, the arts and entertainment, industrial development, anything that creates a job is economic development. So you can be in economic development doing a whole host of jobs. What we do more is on the marketing side of it. The only person that creates, or only businesses create jobs. We don't create jobs. What we do is help them, and then your local governments and your state government, they create the environment so that they can create those jobs. But just like Chris and Scott said, it's communication and relationships, and you definitely have to talk to people face to face. It's a whole lot of face to face relationships.
I have to agree with what Scott and Tina both said. It's relationships, networking. It's not something you choose. It's something that kind of you find your way to it. And I do think you have to love your community, your state and your region as well. So I definitely agree.
So thinking about economic development maybe from a different standpoint, if you are an entrepreneur, you are an economic developer in your own right, because you're starting a business, you have a business, you're providing jobs, you're providing money that goes back into your community that is used for different things that strengthens your community. So from an aspect of being a business owner, you are an economic developer. So those skills that you need, as you mentioned, you need to have communication, you need to have those creative thinking skills that Chris talked about. You need to have a passion and a knowledge of your product and what you are selling or working on or developing. So those skills are very important and to help you grow as an individual, help your business grow, which has a domino effect on your community, your region, and across the state.
It's the contacts. You've got to know somebody that knows something that'll help you out, no matter what project you're doing. I've worked in tourism for a long time here in Tifton to help bring more events to Tifton, to have worked with the college, Abraham Baldwin Agriculture College. By the way, I'm a graduate of ABAC. And worked here for 7 years as Director of Public Relations. That was my first job out of college. You had to have a lot of communication skills when you got to ABAC, but everything was different now than it was then. We had a newspaper. We had a newspaper on campus. We had all kind of communications that we worked with. We finally got the radio station going. I'm still on the radio every day now with Agriculture Farm News, Southeast AgNet, 29 stations across the Southeast with little tidbits of news. We like to keep you updated. But that's, things have changed, and now I'm having to relearn AI. What is that? Got to know everything. My computer, I have to learn new programs and new ways to make an ad, and there's not a newspaper place for me to put my ad that I've developed to promote. So now I've got to go on Facebook. I've got to go TikTok. We're going to try that a couple of times. The communications, you got to learn those skills as they become available and be ready to produce them for who you're working for.
Tyron, we have the state swimming meet here in Tifton, every other year?
Well, we bid on it every year, but every other year.
And you want to tell the folks here about how much the local community makes on that swim meet? Everybody, the gas stations, the restaurants.
Well, every place they stop, they spend money just about it. And the swim meet is especially because parents are following those kids wherever they're going. And we're lucky to have an aquatic center here that really has the place and the team to put it together. You have to have a full team of volunteers for the kids to get involved in. But it is an economic boost that weekend, It helps I wish they had an overnight deal, but most of them go home. But they do stop and spend a lot of money while they're here.
Yeah, I believe the former recreation director for the Tiffin County said the local community makes $4 million on Friday and Saturday when they have that swim meet. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Let me ask y'all another question, okay? First of all, let me just say it's about partnerships too, right?
Yep.
You have helped me on a project. You have helped me on a project, and you have helped me on a project. And so it's about partnerships, and it's about working together to make things happen. And so it's an incredible thing. I'll tell you, I was talking to Dr. Portilla a little earlier. I said, are we going to offer, we used to offer economic development as a course. And we taught finance, real estate, all the things that go with economic development. And then yours truly retired, and for some reason it got dropped, but we were talking about maybe bringing that back. And the thing is, that the people sitting at this table, I wouldn't do all the talking. The people sitting at this table would do a lot of the talking, and do the teaching, actual teaching of the courses, and then we would go to the local communities and put on a project. So, what does transportation? How much does transportation play? What role does transportation play in economic development?
Well, transportation is always going to be key. It's always going to be in your top 10 decision factors is why a company decides to either expand or do a new location. Highway accessibility and speed to market is always going to be important, as you saw from the slide Chris showed you of the things that we've got to invest in our infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the airports, the railroads. All of those things are key to economic development because that company that produces a product has got to get it to market and he's got to get it to his customers.
Some of the things that Georgia has done to assist that, help that along, is I'm sure you know about the Georgia ports in Savannah and Brunswick, and we are number 3 on in the Brunswick port nationwide, and I think we're number 5 in the nation for Savannah. Is that right, Chris? Yeah. With the amount of containers that come in, all of those goods that are dispersed into the U.S., coming into those ports. And what Georgia has not only deepened that port so that those bigger ships can get in there, we've created inland ports in strategic places within the state of Georgia so that then you can bring the stuff into Savannah, put it on rail, either CSX or Norfolk Southern or one of the short lines, and take it to an inland port where then it is dispersed, further out into, Georgia or other states. So that is how key it is that we're finding ways to get those goods out of the port and to you faster.
Like Cordele.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's one in Cordele. Yes, ma'am, Bainbridge, yeah, they're all over the state. There's a brand new one in Gainesville. So it's just a way of getting those goods out of the port into the consumers. And the direct opposite too, when we export, companies that export can withstand downturns in the U.S. economy better because they've got customers in other countries. So as much imports as we do just as much exporting. So those trains and those trucking go both ways.
Can I add about Tifton?
Yes, sir.
The real success is because of our transportation. I-75, 100,000 people stop by north and south every 24 hours. And think about 319, 441, 41, and then all the others that mesh into Tifton. It's a gold mine right out here on the transportation system that Tifton has. And thanks to some people who thought earlier, years ago before we were here, and put those transportation hubs. Tifton's the center of the South Georgia, sorry about it, Moultrie, but it goes, you go here to turn to go to Jekyll Island, a lot of people.
That's right.
So anyway, it's a great asset for Tifton.
Okay, last question. what quality of life considerations have to be made to bring a prospect into the community or to get a prospect to settle in your town?
I'll take a stab first. Quality of life is really a personal issue. What's quality of life to me may not be necessarily quality of life to you. If you ask everybody in here, we're probably going to get different answers. Now, the real definition of quality of life is this. It's the University of Georgia winning the national championship every year in football. That's quality of life. That is quality of life. But in terms of quality of life, when working an industrial project, it's not that quality of life was never important. It usually came on the back end of a project. Now it's more so in the front, and the reason for that is something Chris alluded to. It's because of the millennials and the Gen Z. They have taken a trend of they want to move where they want to live first and then find a job. For a Gen Xer, that's a recipe for starvation. But for the new generations, they're looking. So what you're happening is you've got a concentration of talent. So now the companies are looking at communities where there's a concentration of talent and trying to move there, where the old way was a company would locate, announce they've got 100 jobs, and people would move to where the jobs were. I think there's some basic things as far as quality of life that are not necessarily generic, but are different for all of us. One is people want to live where there's a sense of place, a community that has an identity. It has an it factor. Now defining that is going to be more your definition, but you've all been through communities that you can say, man, I could live here, or you've been through communities and say, man, I wish they'd clean this place up. But then there's health care. People want to have access to doctors. Right. They want to have access to specialists. They want to have access to a hospital. They don't want to have to travel far for health care. Education is a key. People want to live where there is a strong K-12 public education system and have private school choices. They also want secondary education choices, whether it's through a technical college, a community college, or a university. They also want opportunity. They want to be able to get a job for themselves and their spouse. The best social program in the world is get somebody a good paying job with benefits. But they also want, if their child has to go off to college, opportunities for them to come back for a job if they want. And then finally, quality of life is people want something to do. Whether it's after 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon or the weekend, they want to be able to do something. Go to a brewery in the downtown, be in a pickleball league, or do tourism opportunities, or passive opportunities at a park. So really a quality of life is a personal issue, but I think there's certain buckets that a community has to have for a community to have quality of life.
Well said.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
And quality of life means different things to different generations. And what companies will usually look at is, I've got to have a workforce that's very diverse, and they'll look across the board. I need so many of these people, so many of these people, so many of these people. So when a community plans for this, they've got to they have to have a holistic approach to attract all the generations, so that there's an up-and-coming workforce and there's an experienced workforce. They have both sides.
Thank y'all. Go ahead.
I think personally, livability for individuals and future employees coming in, but also crime. That's a big question that we get asked a lot, is crime in a community in our health care.
I want to thank our panel for taking time out to come and talk to us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. There is a reception in Lewis Hall in the student lounge, so please join us there and we can talk some more. Chris, thank you so much for coming to see us. And one more thing, by the way, I'm a graduate of ABAC too.